I'm going to show you how to do the increases required for the patterns in this book, Viking Patterns for Knitting by Elsebeth Lavold. It's a great book, really beautiful patterns. I recently reviewed it for the Norwegian American Weekly, but I did find that the increase method she teaches is a little bit unclear. So I thought I would just do this quick video, show you how to do it. You have a leg up if you try. The reason we're even talking about increases in the context of cables is because Lavold wanted to be able to start a cable anywhere on a reverse stockinette background. Normally, if you do that, you end up with a hole, or you end up with sort of distorted rows beneath. So she came up with a method of increasing. They're directional lifted increases, but she just tweaked the way that they're done, and it's a great result. It looks really pretty. Here it is in a garment type gauge. This is sport weight wool done on number 3 needles. So you can see there's just like a little dash there. So when you're increasing into the row below, you're always going to end up with holes. But the thing that's nice about this method, and here it is in a gigantic gauge, this is done on I think number 13 needles, is that yes, you still have holes. There are 2 of them. There's one here and one here. But you have this nice little apron that's created. It's almost like an elongated pearl bump. And it hides those holes, and it really gives it a really beautiful finish. So here it is in a Lopi yarn. It's a little harder to see probably. And let me show you how to work it. So in her method, she's increasing your total stitch count by 4 because she's doing 4 stitch cables. And what's beautiful about them is that you actually do it in pairs of increases, directional. You do left leaning increases coming out of the right hand base stitch and right leaning coming out of the left hand base stitch. And she actually does 2 pairs. 2 sets of paired increases. So the first set will come here, the second set will be worked into the stitches we create in our increases. So this is on a reverse stockinette background. So I'm going to work up to my spot. And I've just purled the first base stitch. The 2 increases are going to come right in this spot right here that I've just worked up to. Now if you think about the way that row of knitting is when you're in the middle of it, these stitches have been worked, these ones have not been worked. Okay? So if you think of them as child, mother, grandmother, this is a child stitch, it's just been created. This is a mother stitch, it's what it came out of. And the one below that is its grandmother. We're always going to work into the grandmother stitch. It's just a difference of whether you've created the child or not. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm going to lift the stitch, the grandmother stitch, and bring my yarn to the back because I'm knitting now. And I'm going to work that stitch as a knit stitch. I've just increased by 1. Okay, I had already worked the base stitch. Now on this one, I haven't worked the base stitch yet, and I won't work it until after I've done my increase. But when I have worked it, what's currently on the needle will be a mother, and what's right below it will be a grandmother. So it's the grandmother actually, the one directly below it that we're going to work. I'm going to lift it up with my other needle, and I'm going to place it mounted the correct way on the left. You don't have to do it that way. You can probably fudge it and pick it up with the needle and work it right on the needle, but I have just found that I have not ended up with very neat increases that way. Now I'm going to work that stitch. It was a purl stitch. I'm still going to purl it. I'm going to work to the end. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the back. Okay, so, well, first of all, here's what it looks like on the front after you've done these 2 increases. And turn it over, and now you can see those 2 stitches here, right here. They're purl stitches, everything else is a knit stitch because this is the wrong side of reverse stockinette. So I'm going to work everything as it appears. So I'm going to knit the knit stitches and purl the purl stitches. That is usually true in her charts, but you do have to watch to make sure that there's not a decrease on the wrong side, which does sometimes happen. Okay, so I'm going to work to the end, turn it over, and I'm going to show you how to do the second set, the second pair of increases. And they're different because you're actually working them into knit stitches rather than into purl stitches. So you're working them in stockinette, not reverse stockinette. So right now I'm going to get myself a little bit more yarn here. So right now I'm going to work up to them in reverse stockinette. Stay in pattern pretty much the whole time. It's going to be really obvious when you're working this, whether you should knit or purl. Okay, so here are the two increases I created. So again, I need to get in between them because that's it. The new pair is going to spring out from the middle. So I'm going to work remember to bring your yarn to the back. I'm going to work this one. It's a knit stitch, so I'm going to knit it. Now it's a child, so I'm going to work into the grandmother. There's the mother right here. The grandmother is below your working yarn. So that is this one. I'm going to lift it up and whoops, shoot, split it. Now you can see again it's mounted backwards, so I'm going to knit into the back of it. You can also take it off and turn it. I just don't like doing that. Okay, you can stretch out stitches that way if you're not careful. Sorry, I started to do that fast. So now this one is going to be the mother. It's the one directly below it that's going to be the grandmother once you've worked this stitch. So you're going to pick up, and it's easy to see if you turn it, you flip it over, pick that up, put it on the needle, knit it. Now you're going to knit the base stitch. Remember, this base stitch is a knit stitch because it was one of your increased stitches. And then just gonna okay. So here you have it. That's what it looks like. And that these 4 stitches right here, these are what are going to become your cables. Have fun.